Welcome to episode 5 of Wrestling in 1990. Today we will be covering the USWA, the United States Wrestling Association. A few things to go over before we get into the champions going into 1990. So the USWA I consider the last territory, but also the first developmental. They were developmental for WWE in the mid to late 90s, but at this point they are still very much a territory-based promotion. With that being said, the Memphis territory, as it was often called, was a very fast-moving promotion. And by that I mean, basically every Monday night they had a pay-per-view. It wasn't on pay-per-view, but it was their big show every Monday night. So storylines might only be a week long, 2 weeks long, only a month. It can go longer than that. But it moves really fast. So with the USWA, I didn't catch everything, but I tried to catch the bigger things, the Jerry Lawler storylines, the tag team title storylines, the big names. Title reigns don't usually last very long. They can go for 7 days, they can go for a month, they can go for 2 months. It's rare that a title reign would get into the triple digits. So with that being said, here are the champions going into 1990. The USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion is King Cobra. The USWA World Tag Team Champions is the Stud Stable, Brian Lee and Robert Fuller. The USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion is Superstar Bill Dundee, and the USWA Junior Heavyweight Champion is Ken Wayne. The Junior Heavyweight title, I'm not sure if it was defended in Memphis or in Dallas, because at this point in time, they're doing both Memphis and Dallas, and Memphis still goes by CWA at the beginning of the year. The storyline coming into this year for the Unified World Heavyweight title is King Cobra, who just won the belt on December 30th, 1989, against Jerry Lawler. Lawler wants his belt back, and he would not wait long. Just a few days into 1990, Jerry Lawler would be the USWA World Heavyweight Champion once again. In the Dallas portion of USWA, and we won't be seeing a lot of it because there's not a lot on YouTube that I can find, but Matt Bourne is feuding with P.Y. Chuhai, and they would have this weird football match where there would be no ring ropes and they'd be wearing football gear. Also, Billy Joe Travis would be feuding with Bill Dundee. Billy Joe Travis would also be feuding with Jeff Jarrett during this time. And back in Memphis, Jerry Lawler would start feuding with the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. Another program happening in the USWA is for the USWA World Tag Team titles. The Southern Rockers, known later on as Well Done, this is Rex King and Steve Dahl, they would feud with the Stud Stable, Brian Lee and Robert Fuller. In 1990 alone, the USWA World Tag Team titles would see 15 different champions. Now you see what I mean when I say the USWA moves really fast. The big feud in the first half of 1990 is Jerry the King Lawler defending the USWA Unified World Heavyweight title versus his old friend and rival, Jimmy Valiant. They would trade the title 4 times between February and June. One of the things that would kick off this feud is Kerry Von Erich would make an appearance on Memphis TV, and he said he had a present for Jerry Lawler from Jimmy Valiant. When Kerry got the present, it ended up being a bucket of water, and he doused Jerry Lawler and then said, "Happy birthday." Lawler, enraged by this, grabbed the telephone. There was a telephone at ringside, and Jimmy Valiant was on the phone, and he started yelling and screaming at Valiant until he said, "He hung up on me." Lawler would lose the title to Jimmy Valiant, ending his reign at 49 days. But only 2 weeks later, the King would have his crown once again. Lawler and Valiant would have a weird match on TV. It would be a 10-minute time limit match, and they had just introduced new rules to the USWA where there had to be a winner. No more disqualifications, nothing like that. There has to be a winner. So they have their match, and the 10-minute time limit expires. So then Eddie Marlin comes out, and he's like, sudden death. Has to be sudden death. There has to be a winner. So the first man that gets knocked down is declared the loser. Jerry Lawler misses a move, falls on his back, and the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, is declared the brand new USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion. Lawler would win the belt back from Jimmy Valiant, and upon winning the belt, that would be the end of their feud for this year. This feud had been going on since the late 70s. They made a lot of money together, so it was nice to see this feud get a new chapter to the story. Other things happening in the first half of 1990, the stud stable would actually split up. Robert Fuller would turn on Brian Lee, would leave him in a bloody mess on the floor. The team of Brickhouse Brown and Sweet Daddy Falcone would win the USWA World Tag Team titles from the Southern Rockers. A young Mike Awesome would be in the territory. The illustrious Johnny Stewart that I first talked about in the AWA episode, he's in the Memphis territory at this time. A 6'11" monster named Nitron would make his debut in Memphis. Nitron was introduced by Nate Whitlock. Whitlock had basically been the butler of Jerry Lawler on TV the last few weeks and basically abusing him, making him go get some McDonald's and just throwing it in his face when things would go wrong. Just abusing this poor guy. By May, a new wrestler had entered the territory and was looking for Jerry Lawler. This was the Snowman. Jerry Lawler would feud with the Snowman going into the summer of 1990. Also, the Southern Rockers, Rex King and Steve Dahl, they would win back the USWA World Tag Team titles, but they would lose them 12 days later to Tom Burton and Tony Anthony. Leon Spinks, former heavyweight boxing champion of the world, was announced as the special guest referee for the Jerry Lawler Snowman fight on June 18, 1990. This would be the night where the title would change hands and it would stay in the hands of the same man for a while. The Snowman would defeat Jerry Lawler and he would hold the USWA Unified World Heavyweight title for 70 days. This is the longest USWA Unified World Heavyweight title reign in 1990. A little bit of history on the USWA Unified World Heavyweight title. So the name came after Jerry Lawler unified the AWA World Heavyweight title and the WCCW World Heavyweight title and created the USWA Unified World title. So that's where the unification name came from. And he would always say, I defend my belt all around the world, not like those company world champions like WWF and the NWA. It's a good way to try to sell your belt. I don't know if anybody was buying what he was selling, though. A returning star around this point was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. He would be brought in by superstar Bill Dundee. Bill Dundee saying, I have made a deal with the devil. He had paid $5,000 to Eddie Gilbert to be his partner and watch his back. But Gilbert would not even have his back the night he debuted. And this would officially turn Jerry Lawler babyface, as he would help Bill Dundee, and they would team up to face the team of Dirty White Boy and Eddie Gilbert. Also around this time period, Rex King and Joey Maggs would win the USWA Tag Team titles. An interesting character that would make his debut in the USWA would be Cowabunga, the wrestling Ninja Turtle. Now this is 1990. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is white hot at this point in time. It seemed like he was going to be feuding with the USWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Ken Wayne, but then after that it seemed like he was going to team up with him. And I think they might have teamed up on the Monday night shows, but I'm uncertain on that one. The USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion Snowman would find himself in a bunch of feuds during his title reign, mostly against Jerry Lawler, but he would also be challenged by Brian Lee during this time. By August, the Snowman had started no-showing events, and he was eventually stripped of the title. They claimed that he had no-showed 6 shows, and Eddie Marlin just flat-out stripped him of the belt. The thing is, the Snowman kept the physical belt. There were a lot of rumors that he had pawned the belt, or he had sold the belt off to drug dealers. That's all rumors. The Snowman said that he kept the belt. He didn't sell it or anything. He said it was his property because he never got beaten for it. Now the question is, why did the Snowman start no-showing shows? The big reason the Snowman gives is that he was the Unified World Heavyweight Champion and he was in the mid-card. The top star was still Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler was still booking himself as the main event, and the Snowman felt that he was more popular and more deserving of the main event than Jerry Lawler. Now, this is Memphis, don't forget. This is the Mid-South Coliseum. That is Jerry Lawler country. And this is still a small territory where you stay in one spot. You're not all over the world. You're just in Memphis and the surrounding areas. Now, I know they were doing Dallas at the time. They had taken over the WCCW territory. But still, it's the Jerry Lawler show. Eddie Marlin would then announce a huge tournament to crown a brand new USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion. This tournament would feature a lot of legendary names in the wrestling industry. Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk, Austin Idol, Bill Dundee, Jeff Jarrett, amongst others, but at the end it would be won by the King, Jerry Lawler. This would be his fourth and final reign in 1990. His first reign was 49 days, his second reign was 47 days, his third reign was 44 days. This reign would only last 28 days. That would be 168 days in grand total in 1990 as the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion. One of the big questions that fans had was, once Lawler won the belt, what would be the new title belt? Snowman has the old belt, so what were they going to use? A very similar thing happened in 1989 when Jerry Lawler was stripped of the AWA World Heavyweight title, and he just kept the physical belt. And no one beat me for this belt, so I'm keeping it. So they would use the AWA World Heavyweight title as the brand new USWA Unified World Heavyweight title, even though the AWA was still in business at this time. As far as the USWA World Tag Team titles go, Brian Lee and Don Harris would win the tag team belts, and they would trade them back and forth with Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Gaylord. Also, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert would win the USWA Southern Heavyweight title, and he would try to end Jerry Lawler for good by running him over with a car. This is one of the famous angles of Memphis wrestling. I had no clue this happened in 1990, but when I saw this on YouTube, I just got so excited that I was going to be able to talk about this. People that were watching this at home literally called the cops, thinking that Eddie Gilbert had killed Jerry Lawler. Gilbert at this time became one of the top heels in Memphis. He was already a top heel, but this just put him over the top. His brother Doug Gilbert was also wrestling for Memphis at this time and was basically Eddie's right-hand man in the ring. The USWA Tag Team titles eventually found its way to Doug Gilbert and his partner, Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. They would lose the title to Cody Michaels and Jeff Jarrett, but they would quickly win them back. By November, Jerry Lawler had lost the USWA Unified World Heavyweight title to Terry Funk. Terry Funk and Jerry Lawler always had such a legendary rivalry. There's the classic empty arena match where Terry Funk got hit in the eye with a sharp object and kept screaming, "My eye, my eye." He started feuding with Funk when he won the world title in that tournament. The finals were Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler, and Eddie Gilbert and Terry Funk would interfere and try to cost Lawler the match, but it would backfire, and Jerry Lawler would actually win the Unified World Heavyweight title. This would start off the next chapter in the Jerry Lawler-Terry Funk rivalry that I'm sure it wasn't the last chapter. And that would be pretty much it for USWA in 1990. Terry Funk would finish the year as the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion. He would drop the belt back to Lawler in March of 1991, I believe. I was pleasantly surprised how entertaining USWA 1990 was. Now, it wasn't WWF entertaining, but it was still a really fun watch. The USWA would run shows all the way up till 1997. By 1992 and 1993, they would start working with the WWF, and it would eventually become just a developmental territory for the WWF. The WWF would even send some of its big-name talents to compete in Memphis and actually win their world titles. Guys like Owen Hart, Papa Shango, Tatanka, and Razor Ramon. Even Vince McMahon would appear on Memphis TV as the evil Mr. McMahon character. This is a good 6 years before he would be feuding with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Attitude Era. Between 1988 and 1997, Jerry the King Lawler would hold the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship a grand total of 27 times. There was no bigger star in Memphis than Jerry the King Lawler. And with that, that is the end of episode 5. I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you are enjoying this series so far. Episode 6, we are going to the Far East. We are going to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we will be covering the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, Big Van Vader. Again, thank you for listening, and have a great day.